Hello, everyone. This is Jonathan Little. Today, I wanted to share with you some of the things that we have going on over at pokercoaching.com. The students have been having fantastic results playing in tournaments recently, and I wanted to share with you some of the things that they are working hard on. So as you can see, we have 73 new quizzes. We upload a new quiz every few days, and I haven't taken any of them because I was busy making them. We also upload a homework question each month. We have a group webinar where we're going to go over the homework question. This one's in 8 days. And then we also have the Inner Circle, which is an upgraded feature where the students can get online and ask me all of their questions. And also they can request specific topics for me to make. You can call them mini webinars on where we go deep on a specific topic for about 30 or 45 minutes. Homework question for this month, just so you get the idea of what we are doing. So a loose aggressive player raises a 3 big blinds out of his 3 big blind effective stack from the low jack seat. The cutoff and hijack, both somewhat typical players who play in a straightforward manner, call. You call on the button. The flop comes king, 6, 5. Everyone checks to you. Assume you have king, queen, king 7, 9, 8, 8, 7, ace 6, 5, 4, pocket 2s, ace 4, or queen 9. What is your flop strategy with each of these hands and why? And ideally, the student will go through and realize that, is king, queen, and king, queen, and king 7, are those hands that different? What about 9, 8, and 8, 7? And ideally, the student will figure out how to develop a range and then how to balance that range. And that is what we have been working on a lot. Today, though, I wanted to share a quiz with you. So you can just click on the quizzes. As you can see, there are tons of quizzes uploaded. One of the neat features about poker coaching is if you scroll down here to the bottom where I played a few of them for fun, you can see that we give you scores on each street so that you can go through and tell where you're playing great or where you are making errors. And ideally, you'll see the total possible number of points you can have. If you take all the quizzes, hopefully you'll get something like that, the maximum, and you'll understand what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and you'll know where to work to improve your game. So anyway, let's take a look at the most recent quiz. Quiz number 83. This is from the PokerStars EPT Malta main event. You'll hear me talking.
Ace Jack suited.
There I am.
Playing 300, 600 with a 65,000 stack. There's a guy yet to act who has 30,000, so keep that in mind. Should we call? Should we raise to 1,300? Should we raise to 1,800? Or should we raise to 2,200?
So that's the question. And now we need to answer it. So we're playing 300, 600. How much do we raise? Well, I know we need to raise to 1,300 here. Although, with somewhat deep stacks, maybe 1,800 is fine. Let's click 1,300 though and see what I say.
It's difficult to say exactly what a good raise size is pre-flop because we don't know the effective stack. It's always important to realize that just because you have 65,000 doesn't mean you should play as if your stack is the only one that matters. You want to look at everyone else's stack. And as we start getting closer to 30 or 40 big blind effective stacks, I'm going to start making it closer to a min raise. So usually I'm going to be making it about 1,300 here, but I could see 1,400 or 1,500 or 1,800, all being fine plays depending on the stacks of the players yet to act. I'm very rarely going to be making it bigger than 1,800. I think that's usually going to be a mistake. And I'm also not going to be limping. Limping is also usually a mistake. So I do get called by the lag/tag guy. So it's important to understand what this means. This is often a player who plays somewhat tight aggressive, but at the same time, he just randomly does ridiculous stuff. And this does not necessarily mean he's a bad player, but it means that he's going to be tight, but also unpredictable, which is actually not a bad way to play at all. If you are a tight aggressive player, you typically want to be very unpredictable with your ranges, which means, like say you have ace king, often that leads to you playing it like you would play pocket aces after the flop. So anyway, flop comes queen, 8, 7, 1 spade. I have ace jack of spades. Should I check? Should I bet 1,700? Should I bet 2,500? Or should I bet 3,600?
Oh boy, this is a tough one. So I could see merits for check calling. I could see merits for betting 2,500. Let's go with betting 2,500. 6.
All right, so in this scenario, I am typically going to bet. If I do bet, it's usually going to be about 1,700. I think that's a nice sizing that can easily keep our opponent in with a lot of hands that we can barrel off later or just get value from immediately. Also, notice we do have the backdoor flush draw. This is a hand that I don't really want to check call with because I will have to fold it if our opponent continues barreling a lot of the time. So I like continuation betting here. I also think check raising would not be so bad given we do have the backdoor draws. This is a hand that we can check. Our opponent can bet, say, 2,000. We can then make it 5,000 and put him in a pretty nasty spot. So this is a hand that could fall into that category as well, but I'm usually going to bet about 1,700. We don't need to start betting much bigger because then when we get called, we're going to be in pretty bad shape. So I do bet 1,700 and the opponent calls. Pot goes up to 7,600. Turn is a 5 of spades. Should we check? Should we bet 3,200? Should we bet 6,400? Or should we bet 16,000?
Let's see what happens if we bet 16,000. Not so bad.
So the 16,000 bet may seem ridiculous, but I actually don't think it is that crazy. And this is something you'll see a lot of the best players in the world doing in high-stakes cash games. They will bet very large with their draws and a few of their nut hands on the turn. This puts their opponents in really tough spots with pretty much their whole range. And even if you know your opponent's range is good draws and nut hands, you can't do a whole lot about it. You just have to fold a ton. So that is certainly a play that I would not mind, especially given if the play fails, we are not out. I think going all in may just be equally as good as 16,000, given we're clearly somewhat pricing our opponent out of the pot. I guess if we make it 16,000 and our opponent calls, we can check fold the river if we miss. So maybe 16,000 is better. But anyway, I think a standard bet of about 32,000 or 3,200 here is going to be very nice. If I do check and my opponent bets, I'm probably looking to check shove, which I think is also an acceptable play, especially if you think he's going to call a ton if you bet. But if you check and he bets and you raise, he'll fold. That becomes a very, very nice play. So again, you have a lot of options on the turn, depending on how you think your opponent's going to react. This time I do bet 3,200, and now our opponent makes it 11,000. Wasn't really expecting that. Should we fold? Should we call? Or should we go all in?
Well, me being me, let's go all in.
This is an interesting line because I really have no clue what this means at all. Our opponent should not have very many hands like 9-6 or 6-4 in his range. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. He could, of course, have a set, and he could also have 2-pair, but really the only 2-pair that makes a lot of sense is 8-7, and he probably doesn't have 8-7 offsuit, so there's only 3 combinations of that. So I'm having a hard time coming up with very many premium made hands that we lose to besides exactly sets, which there really just aren't very many combinations of any of these hands. So that makes me think that this is a spot where our opponent's going to be bluffing a lot. And if he is bluffing a lot, how should we react? I think the play here is definitely to go all in. If you, for some reason, thought your opponent was incredibly strong, then, of course, you could just fold. But, again, we've talked about this before. I don't really get great reads like that against competent players. I'm like, yeah, this guy just clearly has the nuts, so I fold. My reads are often more of just looking at my opponent's range and seeing how it lines up with the board. And also, sometimes you get live reads, but that happens less and less as you play with better and better players. Anyway, in this scenario, I think going all in is the only play that makes sense. Calling has some merit, but the problem with calling is that we are probably going to check fold a lot of rivers. And if our opponent is bluffing with a hand like, I don't know, Jack 10, sometimes he's just going to randomly get there. And also, he's going to push us out whenever we don't improve a lot of the time. So I think by shoving, we may make our opponent fold some better made hands. Well, clearly, some made hands, like say he did decide to raise with King Queen for no good reason. Also, if he does have a draw, we price out the draws. So I think that going all in here is a very nice play. Folding is fine only if you think the guy has a very strong hand and he will play it well on the river. Calling is just really not great, mainly because we're out of position and we're going to lose this hand a lot of the time when we miss. So I think going all in is the only play that makes sense. I do shove, and this time our opponent folds. So that's fantastic.
So anyway, that's what the quiz feature is over at pokercoaching.com. As you can see, it brings up the plays that you make. You can go back and look at this and think, well, maybe I should have done something slightly different. Anyway, we have a lot of quizzes uploaded, and I am very confident that you will enjoy those. Also, we have the group webinars. If you are a member, you can go back and download the videos if you missed any of the webinars. And with the homework questions, I guess I should make it clear. You submit your homework question, you post it in our forum, and then I will go through and answer the homework, or I'll review the homework answers. And that way you get personalized critiques on whatever answers you give. So that's a great way to improve your game. So That's mainly what we have going on over at pokercoaching.com. I highly suggest you check it out. You can get all the information for it at pokercoaching.com. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time.